Hello everyone, my name is Woodman, and I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to talk about the big 2020 US presidential election fraud lie, which was one of the biggest recent domestic disinformation campaigns against our electoral system. In fact, it was so big that an actual mob of people stormed the US Capitol in an attempt to stop the election from being certified for Joe Biden. While the mob did not succeed, it represented a period of one of the most dangerous presidential transitions that occurred in modern times. Let's give some background information on how we got here. In the spring of 2020, polls showed Donald Trump heading for a defeat in his bid for re-election against Democratic nominee Joe Biden. Polls were also showing that Democrats were most likely or more likely to vote by mail because of the COVID-19 pandemic. In April of 2020, Trump began claiming that mail-in ballots were not secure. Here are two examples. On April 7th, he said, quote, "Mail ballots are a very dangerous thing for this country because they are cheaters. They go and collect them. They are fraudulent in many cases," unquote. In August, he claimed that California was sending ballots to, quote, "millions of people, anyone, no matter who they are or how they got there," unquote. Ballots had been proven to be secure, and in California, ballots were only being sent to registered voters. Mail-in ballots take longer to count. With in-person voting, the work of verifying the ballots occurs when voters submit their ballots. In many states, ballots are still admissible if they are postmarked by Election Day but arrive later. Moreover, the election laws in place in several crucial swing states did not provide enough time to count the mail-in ballots before election night. Because more Democrats would be voting by mail, elections experts thus anticipated what they call a red mirage. They warned that the early voting returns on election night would look stronger for Trump than the final complete count. A few weeks before the election, journalist Chris Wallace asked Trump if he would commit to a peaceful transfer of power should he lose the election. Trump hemmed and hawed and then said, quote, "Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I have been complaining very strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster," unquote. Pressed further, Trump said, quote, we will want to get rid of the ballots, and we will have a very peaceful, there will not be a transfer, frankly. There will be a continuation," unquote. As elections experts predicted, when the first returns came in after the polls closed on Election Day, Trump initially appeared to hold a lead. His lead quickly evaporated as vote counting continued. When Trump's lawyer, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, asked what was happening in Michigan, he was told by election watchers that it was still too early to determine the winner. Giuliani told them, quote, "Just say we won," unquote. Same thing in Pennsylvania. Giuliani said, quote, "Just say we won Pennsylvania," unquote. At 2:30 a.m. East Coast time, as the votes were being counted, Trump announced himself the winner of the election. He said, quote, "A very sad group of people is trying to disenfranchise people who voted for me, and we will not stand for this. This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election," unquote. The next day, as the votes were still being counted, Trump tweeted, quote, "Stop the count," unquote. Pro-Trump protesters took to the streets claiming that the election was being stolen. They gathered in front of government buildings where votes were being counted and chanted, quote, "Stop the vote," unquote. When all the votes were being counted, Biden won with 51.3% of the popular vote compared to Trump's 46.9%. Biden won 306 electoral votes to Trump's 232. Advocates on behalf of Trump brought 62 lawsuits claiming that Biden won because of widespread fraud, but the courts rejected those claims. While all of this was happening, polls taken between Election Day and Biden's Inauguration Day showed that as many as 77% of Republicans believed that Trump won and the election had been stolen from him. Quote, "Trump won," and "Stop the steal" were the rallying cries of the insurrectionists who attacked Congress on January 6, 2021 to prevent Biden from being named the next U.S. president. This just shows that a majority of Republicans believe Trump won the 2020 election when they were polled a few years ago. Even after 2 years after the election, On September 28, 2022, 64% of Republicans still believe that Biden won due to voter fraud. Anyone who believed that Trump won the 2020 election saw the Biden administration as illegitimate and the entire federal government as perpetuating a fraud. The lie that the 2020 election was stolen thus has the characteristics of the kind of big lie that reshapes reality. As Yale professor Timothy Snyder explained, the lie casts Trump as a victim who was stabbed in the back by political enemies. Casting Trump as a victim thus permits Trump and his followers to do evil in the name of revenge or in the name of correcting an imagined injustice. In Snyder's words, quote, claiming that a fair election was a foul is preparation for an election that is foul. If you convince your voters that the other side has cheated, you are promising them that you will cheat next time, unquote. Snyder thus predicted that Trump's lie will have lasting consequences. So what happened next? As you already know, on January 6, 2021, a mob of Trump supporters rioted the Capitol. They fought the police officers inside and outside of the Capitol. Lawmakers had to evacuate or hide in certain parts of the Capitol. It was a scary situation for everyone, but like I said before, the votes were officially counted and certified. So, our democracy did not officially collapse on January 6th. The worst the rioters did was just delay the certification by several hours. But imagine what would have happened if the rioters succeeded in stopping the certification. When you think about it, our democracy was almost destroyed on that day, all because those people believed in disinformation about election fraud that was intentionally fed into them. Not to excuse their behavior, but they had this mentality that they needed to take something back that they thought was stolen from them. Despite Trump losing the 2020 election, popular vote and electoral college vote, Trump was able to convince those supporters and many other Republicans that the 2020 election was stolen from him and that he deserved to be the winner. Other than the Capitol getting rioted on and attempting to overturn the election results, this disinformation on the 2020 election also aimed to sow doubts in our electoral system. The 2020 election was conducted securely, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, but efforts to sow doubt in the mail-in ballot process also speaks to bad actors creating negative narratives about making voting easy for people. Spreading disinformation about voting is aimed at decreasing people's confidence in their vote and putting pressure on lawmakers to make voting laws and procedures more restrictive. After all, the 2020 election fraud lie was about using disinformation tactics to further divide the country, increase political violence, overturn who the people voted for, and raise doubts about voting as an excuse to make it stricter. Based on the historical and modern examples I provided in this video set series, we keep seeing so many warning signs on how disinformation will make our society worse off if we do not combat it. As I said before in my previous videos, democracy requires a shared truth and a sense of factuality. Fascism takes root when myths and lies replace the truth in the public sphere. The question thus remains open. Will fascism take root in the United States? Or will enough Americans stand by the truth? In the next video, we will talk about ways we can combat disinformation. Until then, please like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and turn on the post notifications so you will be notified when I post my next video. I appreciate your support. Remember, you are powerful, you are capable, and you are the changemaker our society needs. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you soon.